You just saw that Dynasty Deep Dive trailer EA just dropped. And if you're anything like me or any other true Dynasty head, you're probably pre-ordering faster than Deion Sanders ran the 40-yard dash. But wait, before you get all cozy thinking you got all the info you need from that little 5-minute tease, I got some game-changing, mind-blowing info that EA didn't share with you in that video. EA gave you their version of a deep dive. I'm about to give you a dig through the core of the earth with a flamethrower type of dive. So buckle up, grab your cleats. I'm going to give you information that's going to blow your mind that you didn't see in the trailer. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to peel back the layers and share things that the deep dive didn't cover. But before we do that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss anything. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Now, for everyone who has a true obsession with Dynasty like our group does, going 18 plus seasons, and we're still playing in our final Dynasty now for a year, then you're going to really appreciate the information you're going to get here, because it's going to put you a step ahead of everyone else who doesn't watch this video. So as you know, EA has now included more dynamic outfits for your coaches, so you will be able to have more clothing options. But on top of that, they now have done something that is really cool. They've introduced what's called coach demeanor and stance customization. Is your coach cool, calm, and collected? Or do they have high energy, emotionally charged leader that fires up the sideline? So your choice will influence how your coach stands and act throughout the game, giving your coach a persona and even more personality on the field. So that is absolutely awesome, the fact that you can have a fired up coach or a chill coach. Now, as we get deeper into this, in College Football 26, the maximum coach level, as you may know, has been extended from 50 to 100, which means that we really now have a way to customize our coach more so than we did last year. But keep in mind, the points are higher. We're going to show you that a little later in this video. Also, they've introduced scaling archetype cost. So that's going to be a little bit kind of dynamic when it comes down to choosing your archetype. So again, each archetype you unlock becomes incrementally more expensive, encouraging more intentional choices as your coaching journey evolves. Archetypes that are closely related to your current specialization will cost way less than those that require you to learn a new skill set. For example, if you start off as a recruiter and you become a lead recruiter, it'll be much cheaper than trying to learn a completely different skill set and become a motivator. Just like in real life, it's easier to grow within an existing area of expertise than it is to take on a whole new unrelated skill set. So what this means is that if you are upgrading within that same skill tree, then you won't incur a cost. But if you dip outside, hey, it's going to cost you. As you see, 30 upgrade points to go from tactician if you are a natural recruiter. So keep that in mind when building your coaches. Also, with coordinators playing such a pivotal role in your team's performance and your coaching overall development, they have added 3 new program builder abilities that will give you more control over hiring and the retention process. See, we didn't have this in 25. So here are the little skill sets here. Forever home, which means your coordinators are less likely to leave for another job. Deal sweetener, which means coordinators are more likely to accept your job offer. And then cream of the crop, which increases the caliber of coordinators available for you to hire. Folks, this is big because a lot of times when we were playing in the 25 version of college football, you would actually get this great coordinator that spent like 5 years with you. Then all of a sudden he gets a job offer, he's gone, and your team drops in level. Or if your coach was a recruiter, then you lost those points. So this is a big deal. And this is something that I literally put in the suggestion box when I was actually playing the beta version of this game. So I'm glad that they added that, a way for us to kind of keep some coaches in there. And I'm going to go over some things that I put in as far as suggestions. And EA looks like they listen to the community. So a lot of people have probably put in the same thing. So thank you, EA, for listening. You guys rock. So as you go further, you'll understand that we have a transfer portal in Dynasty. And what's going to happen is you can now expect to see a consistent pool of around 2,000 players entering the portal. That is huge. We didn't have that many in Dynasty. So now we're going to have more vast and dynamic choices of some of the transfers we're able to get into our program that can make an immediate impact. So I love that change. Also, the deal breakers are going to be even more punishing. At the heart of the transfer portal is a simple truth. Every player has expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, they may decide to leave. Some players may have expectations you don't agree with or find unreasonable, but that doesn't change the reality of college football today. In college football 26, every player now has a deal breaker, giving each one clearly defined expectations and a chance to enter the portal if that expectation isn't met. So as you saw last year, if you had a deal breaker, they would kind of hang around, but you had a small chance of them going into the portal. Now, the chances of them going into the portal has dramatically increased, which means that if your buddies try to stockpile on recruitment and they're telling the lies to try to get them to come to the program, well, guess what? If they don't fulfill their promises, you could actually be getting some of those players in the portal. That's a really good way to really just add realism to the dynasty. Now, also, there is an ability, and what I'm finding out, folks, if you're not realizing this, is that Program Builder is going to be one hell of an ability, because so far we've seen that it had another perk earlier. Now, if players do decide to leave, abilities with Program Builder Archetype can help. So they have what's called Gift of Gab, and so you can actually have additional persuasion attempts to keep someone in your program. They have roster retainer, so you increase the chance of persuading a player to stay. And then they have full refund. You get an additional persuasion attempt if one of your attempts is successful. So this is really a game changer when it comes down to players leaving. That additional persuasion attempt is huge. I know in 25 you only had one, and now with these additional types of perks, it makes these abilities way more dynamic than we've ever seen in this game. Also, it's a new setting. Now, if you have a person who is a commissioner of your dynasty, make sure you let them know about this so you can actually enjoy this. So they have what's called max transfers per team. You can adjust how many players can transfer from one single team, 0 to 30. And this setting to 0 disables the portal entirely for more traditional experience. So literally, make sure you have a discussion with your commissioner and the league to make sure that you guys can agree on the number of transfers that you have. Also, transfer probability, user team. So you can scale how likely players on a user controlled teams are to transfer if their deal breaker is validated. So again, those are things I would say commissioners you want to pay attention to. Transfer probability on CPU teams. Do the same for CPU teams, allowing you to align and differentiate on how AI handles your player retention. So again, this is more control on the dynasty than we've had last year. And so again, this can actually make your league more spicy. Also, location-based recruiting. Now, it's easier and cheaper to get a player on campus when they live nearby, but driving 100 miles is a very different challenge than flying across country. And in college football 26, they've replicated this reality through location-based recruiting. So the cost of a visit is now tied directly to how close a recruit is to your campus, making geography a meaningful factor in your weekly recruiting strategy. I love this because in our league, we had a gentleman, Tori, who was just grabbing all the recruits. It didn't matter where they were at, he was just grabbing them, and there was no real consequence to him taking that risk to get someone kind of deep away from his state. Now it is. So I love this because it now gives you a chance to have some type of advantage when recruiting within your type of area. So I love that location-based recruiting. Now, also, here's how they have this. The higher the recruit's proximity to home grade with your school, the cheaper it will be to bring them for a visit. So again, the cost can range as low as 10 recruiting hours for nearby players or to as high as 40 hours. Now in College Football 25, they were all 40 hours. So again, in the last game, with the game we're playing now, it was all 40 hours, didn't matter who you were. And so now this is going to give you more hours to put into more recruits that you want to get. So again, I love the fact that they now differentiate the hours based on the proximity. That is going to be big. Again, I am so excited to play Dynasty with all these changes coming up, but folks, we still got so much more. Now also, another ability that I've highlighted so far, again, Program Builder for me, what I'm looking at is going to be a must because I've already identified 2 perks in here that look like they're very detrimental. And this ability now, CEO, again, that's going to be a good ability too. To help maximize your visit, CEO archetype now includes a new ability. More the merrier. This ability includes the number of players who can visit your campus in a single week, increasing the cap from 4 to 8. That extra flexibility makes a big difference during critical stretches of the season, especially when you're juggling high priority targets or trying to align visit timing with multiple recruits. So this is a good one because a lot of times when you start off and you have to play a lot of tough users, you might not be able to squeeze all your visitation on a user game because you might lose, right? So the cool thing is with the CEO ability, if I can get 8 people on a visitation, either against a weak user or against a CPU game, man, this is going to be absolutely amazing. So this is great. It does make the CEO worth it because I thought the CEO ability last year was very weak, but now it looks like they're putting a little bit more effort into it. And trust me, I screamed at EA the whole entire last year about the CEO ability because in my first run, I got that ability and I felt like I didn't get as much out of it as I really should have gotten. So this is a great addition. Now you're gonna have what's called recruiting battles. This is really cool, so I love this. In College Football 25, there were moments when 2 schools were locked in a close recruiting race, and it wasn't always clear why one team ultimately won out. So you didn't know why you lost a recruiting battle to somebody else, and there was no logical points behind it. So when both programs are neck and neck, it could feel a little random which school landed a commitment. Now, when one school reaches a commitment threshold and another's right behind them, a recruiting battle is triggered. The recruit won't commit right away, and instead they will set a new higher commitment threshold, giving both schools a short window to make one final push. It's not a long extension, just enough to create space for a true head-to-head finish. From that point on, it becomes a race. Whichever school reaches a new commitment threshold first secures a commitment. So I like this because at least you know that if you're locked in one-on-one with the recruit, it's not a random thing or it's not anything you can't understand. It at least gives you a chance to fight it out and to duke it out with that school that's really close. So this is going to bring more immersion to recruiting than we've ever seen. So I love this addition to the game. Thanks, EA, for that. Now, recruit generation. This year, they've increased the number of recruits generated each season to about 4,100. So that gives a deeper, more varied pool of talent for programs at every level. And I think that's a good idea because if you're going to do your program at a 1-star, 2-star school, and you're in a dynasty league with other users that are starting the same, you want to make sure that you have enough pool to even grow your team. And so there's not much variation between someone who is literally just stacking recruits and you trying to just get that one to turn your program around. So again, as a part of expansion, they've also rebalanced several key aspects of recruit generation, including physical and mental abilities, as well as prospects' individual ratings. So speaking on that, I truly hope that they also increase the ability of a quarterback mental to be able to not allow home games to affect them as much. If you do recruit for that, I hope that is in this game. That remains to be seen, because I know the ability that they had, clear-headed, it just, sometimes it was okay, but you still had the effects of not being able to call audibles and hard routes. So we'll see how that plays out when the game comes out. Now this year, when you select the sway action, so if you're recruiting, you would try to sway someone. Now you can see the probability of success before making your move. So this gives you much more clarity around when and how to take your shot. So again, I love this option because this is giving us a little bit more dynamic stats on where we are in the process. So it's not like you're just blindly swinging. You can see everything. So as a person that's really building this program, the immersion is at an all new level with this additional feature. Now, once a sway is successful, then they'll show you some visual indicators, both on the left recruiting board list and next to the specific motivations the recruit now cares about. So these new markers make it easy to identify recruits that you successfully swayed. So when you do sways, you can now be able to visually see where they're at in the sway process. Now, another thing I love that they added is when you press the R3 button, then you can actually access the team's needs instead of flipping back and forth on those screens. That was so freaking annoying doing that. So now you can actually have a dynamic screen that pops up where you can actually see your needs as you are now trying to get prospects. So I'm glad they made that change. That was one I think everyone voiced. So again, you can now see your team needs front and center by pinning it to the top of your prospect list, which makes this way more easy to do. Now, finally, they've had a set of advanced search filters to give you more ways to filter and search the prospects to identify the ones who meet the needs of more potential targets for your team. So again, you can do it by maximum star rating, minimum pipeline level, and recruiting stage. So I think last time, if you were just trying to search, you really couldn't do by recruiting stage. I think these updates are really going to help us to be able to dial in on that recruit that we're looking for to fit our ideal position. Now, this is new and I love this. So now they have what's called a trait where if you recruit a player, let's say he's a normal, then more than likely they will be able to upgrade that dev trait to impact. And again, as it says here, you can upgrade your development trait during the off-season progression, and performance is determined by their season stat line relative to their position. So if you actually are going to stat stuff a player, that is going to help them to be able to move their development trait. And again, they said it's not guaranteed, and the better player is at the current trait, it's harder to move up. For example, moving from normal to impact is more likely than jumping from star to elite. Now, you can increase the odds of a player upgrading their development trait by purchasing the gains getter ability within CEO. So folks, once again, I got to point this out. The CEO ability and the program builder ability are right now, that is going to be the two hottest abilities because it really has a chance to impact not only development, but also your impact direct recruiting. So again, these two abilities are on my radar as something that I definitely want to get to as far as being able to have a huge advantage when building my program. So you're starting to see this as we go through it. Also, a thing that you want to let your Dynasty commissioners know, you can actually change the settings to manual progression. Me personally, I didn't like it when the progression would happen. You have these points sitting there and you couldn't really control where the points went into, right? They might be going into hands or running. So now if you have a recruit that has no ceiling, then you can control what skill points you put into them and where. So again, as you see, this guy has quickness. So if you want to put more in the hands, you can actually max out his hands, and you can now really craft that player to have the skills needed for any type of position you want. So again, this setting has to be turned on. Also, as a Dynasty person or a person that controls the Dynasty or commissioner, when you do turn this on, there is a nerf that comes. So by default, it will slow progression by 25% to help maintain balance. But the good news is, if you talk to your commissioner of your Dynasty, that nerf is fully customizable. So the commissioner can actually turn it off completely or increase it to 100% to fully prevent users from auto-progressing players. So again, you gotta have the conversation with your commissioner. My personal opinion is, I think many people would wanna have control on how they're able to progress their players to now fine-tune those abilities to where they really fit what you wanna do. Also, As you evaluate changing player positions, the player module on the right side of the screen will now display a preview of each ability the player would retain in a selected position. So rather than just blindly changing the position and like not knowing what ability is going to get or lose, at least you can actually see a little type of synopsis of what ability they would get. And this way you can actually better make your choice of not only changing for an overall, but also maybe he might be a smaller overall ability or a lesser overall ability, but he actually gets more types of abilities like blow up. So I love the fact that we don't just go by numbers. We can now see the actual individual abilities, whether it's worth it or not to make that change. So that's a pretty awesome thing too. Also, stat padding. So again, they have a deeper stat tracking for both individual and entire team. So again, if you are in a dynasty league and again, you want to have that player to develop, all of that is actually tracked too. So I love the fact that they added this in here. So we do have stat padding that you can track, and these will play a major role into how you are able to get faster. So again, here are some of the position types like wide receiver. They now feature several unique archetypes. So again, you got speedster, route artist, physical route runner, elusive route runner, gritty possession, gadget receiver, and contested specialist. So I like these different types of archetypes. And the fact is that when you get these archetypes, the fact that you can tweak their ability if you're on manual makes it even all the more amazing. So this is a huge, huge thing. So now what I want to do is actually want to pull up an example of some of the abilities so you can actually look at them. As you see, the abilities look almost similar to what we're used to. And what we're looking at now is we're seeing that, okay, tier 1 for recruiter, quarterbacks take less time to fully scout. Tier 2, increased starting interest from quarterbacks. Tier 3, quarterbacks transfers are more interested. And then tier 4, increase the chance of swinging quarterbacks. So again, a slight change in these, but again, these can all apply to your ability to recruit. So I love the ability tree on that. And then as we go down to elite recruiter, as you see, you can boost ideal pitch grades for quarterback. Again, school grades have a larger impact. So you can literally tier these out. So I'm just kind of showing you the tiers. They didn't really show this in Dynasty Deep Dive to this extent. So I'm just kind of giving you a look at these now so you can check them out. So let's go over to Architect. As you see, these are 12. So Architect does have the ability to allow progression to be a lot more. So can't stop, won't stop. You can earn XP bonuses for every 3-game win streak. Quarterbacks earn additional XP for in-game goals. And so chance to increase random skill cap when leveling up. I think that's going to be a good one. It's going to be expensive. Looks like it's going to be around 36 points, but that's always been a good one in the current Dynasty. And so I'm thinking hopefully that'll be something we can use. And as again, it's tier 4, put a ring on it, chance to increase best skill cap with a conference or national title. So again, you're going to have to balance these, and we do have more points, but you're going to have to decide where you're going to put your points at. Also, Tactician, for those of you who want to use that, they look to be the same. I'm seeing that on some positions on wide receiver, you can increase the block. So again, Tactician, nothing major here. I think they didn't change it much. So this is going to be the same that you see as well. If you go to tier 2, it looks like they have all the same things as well in 2026. They did in 2025. So again, pretty much the same. Now, CEO, this is where we got something here. So again, with CEO, you can spend a second persuade chance on the player if the first one fails. I think they had that one, but it for some reason, I don't know if it was as effective as it should be. And I think 26 will make it a little more effective. Also, again, lasting impression, you can gain additional interest for every 10 hours spent. That is crazy. So that's going to be ability, lasting impression that people may look at. Also, the more the merrier. We talked about the ability to increase the number of players who can visit to 8. That's going to be a game changer right now for anyone that's recruiting. And just imagine if your rival can only get 4, you can get 8. You're going to land more players faster. Also, another ability, Last Dance, boosts interest for every visit a player has taken before visiting you. So even if you have a friend or your rival or a user that has a visit, if they don't sign and they come to visit you the next week, then guess what? You're going to earn additional interest because they visit. So I love that. So folks, those are all the major abilities here. And I think because we have these great things that are going on 26, the devs have done a great job of inputting a lot of things in this game. So I love the fact that we have all these new tools that we're going to play with. The Dynasty is going to be absolute fire. So folks, if this video kind of helped you gain a little bit of insight, make sure you comment below, drop a like, and make sure you subscribe, and we'll keep you up to date on anything that comes out as far as NCAA 26. And I will be starting my Dynasty live on this channel. See you next video. Peace.